My name is David Cyrus MacDonald, and on this episode of Chattel Fixtures PEI Real Estate podcast, I am joined by Greg Rivard. He is a former city councillor for Charlottetown and a current realtor with RE/MAX Charlottetown Realty. He brings a unique perspective on the future of Charlottetown, and I really think Greg displays a refreshing forthcomingness and transparency in this episode. I certainly learned a lot, and I hope you find it both useful and entertaining. If you have any feedback or want to talk with me personally, you can comment or find my contact at chattelfixtures.com. That's CHATTEL fixtures.com. Please like and subscribe to help me keep bringing you this information for free. And without further ado, here's my conversation with Greg Rivard. Greg Rivard is a realtor with RE/MAX Charlottetown Realty. He is the outgoing city councillor for Ward 7 in Charlottetown, choosing not to reoffer in the most recent municipal election. He served in this role for 8 years, starting in 2014, and brings a unique perspective to the Charlottetown real estate market as someone who has been so involved in the community and directly with municipal government. In addition to a variety of other listings, Greg is a listing agent for Sherwood Crossing, a development of new townhouses located on Cody Drive, which is situated between Mount Edward Road and the Towers Mall, or should I say Charlottetown Mall, or more up to date, Royalty Crossing. Not going to lie, those look pretty appealing to me. They look like great units, great homes. You can check out those spacious, brand new 4-bedroom, 3-bath townhouses on realtor.ca, or I'm sure on your website, Greg. Back in 2019, I myself was working on a major new development that didn't end up happening, but I took the opportunity to speak with Greg, and it was so refreshing to talk with someone who had such enthusiasm about Charlottetown's ability to adapt to the future. I remember how focused and helpful Greg was, how willing he was to share ideas, and how he so wanted to make sure more opportunity and success came to the city. Greg has a background in accounting, working as an auditor for the Workers' Compensation Board of PEI, and also has executive certificates in local government leadership from Dalhousie University. I think this conversation could be a unique opportunity to ask someone with Greg's unique perspective about where Charlottetown is headed in the future, what he sees for new development happening here over the coming years, discuss some of the different neighborhoods in Charlottetown, and ask Greg what he would say about Charlottetown or PEI in general to someone considering moving here. So welcome, Greg Rivard.
Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, it's such a pleasure.
Great intro.
You like that?
That was awesome.
Okay, cool. Yeah, there is a lot going on there actually, because your background, you've studied how government works in addition to working in government, and also accounting, and you were at the Workers' Compensation Board for like 25 years?
27 years.
27 years.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So that to me seems like so you were accountant there, right? Or
I was an auditor.
An auditor, right? Yeah. So what were you doing with that?
Well, my role was simply to meet with employers across Prince Edward Island to make sure that, again, what any auditor does is really around compliance.
Right.
So that was kind of the main job. I was the only one on the island that did that for workers' comp. So I traveled tip to tip. Loved my job because, it wasn't a desk job. It allowed me to get out, meet people, talk to people. It was something that that kind of drew me to politics, and the same thing that drew me to real estate.
That's really interesting. Okay, now I see the through point in that. That I'm starting to understand how that job actually worked. I imagine you to be stationed at a desk, kind of auditing as maybe the CRA would, going through files and requesting documents.
No suits, no desk. It was jeans and a golf shirt, and I would meet employers on site, kind of within their own comfort of their own offices, own homes, own buildings. So I loved it.
Cool. Okay, very interesting. Zoom forward from there. Yeah. You are a city councillor for Ward 7. So you'd have, I feel like, a very there's only so many councillors for one, and there's only one Greg Rivard. So your perspective on kind of where things are going in the city, I think, would be a really interesting sort of area to focus in on. So I think maybe a good starting point is, as we're going through this time of increased interest rates and there's kind of a little bit more fear coming, maybe a lot more fear coming into the market in a lot of ways. What do you see happening with new development in Charlottetown? Because I know you were following really closely with when we had that incredible housing crunch, which is still persisting to not quite as extreme an extent in that the vacancy rates are no longer zero, I believe.
Pretty close, though.
Pretty close?
Pretty close, yeah.
So I know you were really following what was happening with new development. So where do you see that going now, like with new housing starts, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I could take you back to 2015, just to kind of lead you up to where we are today.
Please.
So back in 2015, we had a vacancy rate here in Charlottetown of over 7%. And you can see year by year the trends of building versus not building. So it used to be almost a 3-year trend that you'd have construction go through the roof, and then it would just die off for 3 years. And then 3 years later, it'd go up again. In 2015 is when the Liberal government at the time had a plan to, a fairly aggressive plan for return home workers from Alberta. So there was a plan in place to bring, I'll say islanders back home. And there was also through PMP, a big push for immigration. So we went from a population growth, I believe on the island, I think the number I saw was 125 people in 2014 to close to 2,700 in 2015. And then year after year, just because the Liberal government used, the immigration path, which is great, to spark the economy, which was important, it was kind of year after year after year, Prince Edward Island had the highest growth rate per capita across Canada. I think it was 4 or 5 years straight.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So again, we went from a population, I mean, you've probably seen it, of 135,000 people roughly to now, we're over 160.
We're over 160 now, eh?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and most of those through, I'll say, that follow the PMP program, immigration to come, the retention rate is about 38%, but most of the people, upwards of 90%, resided in the Charlottetown greater area.
Right.
So as the years went on, and I was chair of planning at the time, you could quickly see that the vacancy rate was going down pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And, no one knew what to expect. So the vacancy rate ended up going from a 7% even higher. In 2019, I think it was pretty much zero.
Right.
So all of a sudden there was this huge demand for builds.
Yeah.
And again, the unintended consequences of a strong economy and population growth is that shortage of houses, healthcare, overcrowded schools, things of that nature. So we're seeing that now, and now we're trying to play catch up. But PEI is still a destination that people want to choose. That people love PEI. They want to come here.
Yeah.
COVID hit, and people now they found out that they can work from home.
Yeah.
So they may have had a 10-year plan down the road to move from Ontario to PEI.
Yeah.
When they retired, but all of a sudden, because of COVID, they had an option maybe to work from home.
Right.
So you saw a lot of the younger people move back home. And I think that's where a lot of the, what we've seen in the last couple of years, the crazy market.
Yeah.
A lot of people were selling their homes in Ontario where the market was strong, and they were moving here.
Yeah.
And it was a crazy 2 years.
So what about now?
So again, we all know about the interest rates. We all know about the inflation. We all know about, the recession talk, what's going to happen. So with all that, it's definitely slowed down quite substantially. I read an article, I think it was a couple of days ago, that talked about, the 40% it's slowed down,
Really?
Which is significant.
That would 40% in volume of sales?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially homes from $500,000 to $1 million. That's the biggest difference.
Right.
There's still a pent-up demand for anything under $500,000 because you do have your first-time home buyers. You still have, people who are looking to downsize. But homes 500 plus, that's slowed down considerably.
Okay.
Yep.
And so with that, so the transaction volume has decreased, but we still have presumably, and I've heard that projected over the next number of years, we're still expecting an influx of people moving here. Is that correct?
Correct. Yep.
So if you're a home builder and you don't know what's going to happen with interest rates, and but you know that there's probably going to be more immigration coming here, but it's very murky as to whether the cost of building materials is going to come down more if there's a recession or a greater recession, depending on how you define it. Whether the housing prices are, when you're finished building it, is it going to be worth more than it cost you to build? So with this uncertainty driven largely by interest rates, what effect do you expect that to have on new housing starts? And considering there's still this growing demand from population growth, are we in a recipe for sustained pain in terms of the housing situation?
Absolutely. I mean, again, everything's murky right now, and I'm far from an expert in this field, but I mean, when you look at, like I said, the inflation rate, you look at the interest rate, you start talking about the vacancy rate, you said about the new bills, then you know, with the government's announcement of freezing rent increases, are builders going to be wanting to build, apartment complexes, things of that nature, to help with the vacancy rate if
they're in an environment where
if they can't pay for what they're building.
Yeah.
So that's a big problem, because again, the rental piece is what determines the vacancy rate. If those available units units aren't available, then you don't have the people looking to downsize and move out of their homes now to move into some of the apartments, which could be the seniors. And then there's nothing on the market.
Right.
So, then they're focusing on builds, if you will, households. But again, it's tough. I mean, then you got the planning department at the city of Charlottetown that is just overwhelmed. They can't move permits fast enough to keep up with because they're short staff. And
right.
It's just a pile of things that I don't think the general public fully understand sometimes.
Yeah.
And I mean, I just talked to the chair or the manager of planning today, and we have a planner leaving, another planner leaving tomorrow.
Oh wow! Are they run down?
They're three
exhausted?
short. They're three planners short.
3 planners short.
So there's just an example of
oh wow.
Even if the want is there, we know the need's there.
Yeah.
It's question is, can we get the paperwork done fast enough? Can we get the permits done fast enough out the door for some of these projects to start? That way they have completion dates that are meaningful.
Right.
So, it's just a trickle down effect to everything.
Whenever I was doing that research and I was talking to you about potentially being involved in a development myself, there was, prior to that, the federal liberal government had announced a lot of funding from CMHC to encourage more development of affordable housing. Since that time, I haven't been following it as closely. Has that been making its way to the island?
And something, I'm like you, I'm not sure. I mean, I know that the provincial government, I think they're taking avenues to try to help with the affordable housing piece.
Yeah.
I just think that, as the population continues to grow, I just think that our housing situation just becomes more dire. I mean, the interest rates, the housing costs, I mean, it went from, 3 years ago from being, really, really low to, bungalows now going for $350,000 to $400,000.
Oh, easy.
As a first time home buyer, that's tough.
Yeah.
Right. So, some people no longer can afford the mortgage payment. They can't renew it because they can't afford it. Rents have gone up through the roof. So people, the homeless situation has gotten stronger and bigger. Affordable housing, same. They all go kind of hand in hand.
Do you think that is hand in hand? Because I mean, I don't want to dive necessarily too deep into the homeless thing, because it's a really complicated topic.
It is,
and there's always that mix of different influences that is bringing someone into that condition. And so, do you think that there is and maybe this is just an obvious question, but I'll ask it anyway. Do you think there's a direct correlation? What percentage of the direct correlation do you think it is of people who are, say, people who are working, who want to work, who can't find a place to live, who are homeless? What bigger percentage of it is that versus, say, other reasons?
I guess the percentage that I've heard when it comes to people who maybe this is a better way of putting it, that need help around the affordable housing piece.
Yeah.
I heard the percentage of anywhere between 15 to 20% of
Right.
our public is susceptible, that they're needing the help, that, with the rent increases that they had announced
Yeah.
of 10%, they were talking about this 20% of the population needing assistance of some capacity.
Right.
And then again,
the assistance is there available for them from the provincial government, right?
it is. Well,
Yeah.
the province chose a different route. They chose to freeze the rents,
Right.
and help subsidize with packages to the landlords and builders,
Right.
as opposed to kind of focusing on the 20%. I mean, I don't have to agree or disagree. I mean,
Right.
they chose their path, and
Yeah.
yeah. So that's
Yeah. Why was there such a discrepancy there? Like, I mean, this is like, there's so much emotion and, like it's really hard for me to kind of have firm opinions around some of these things because there's so many different forces at play. But there seems like such a big discrepancy between IRAC's proposed increase and the provincial government's response to it. Like, it wasn't a middle ground.
I think it was a surprise to the province. I think it was a surprise to everybody. And I mean, the only people I don't think it was a surprise to was the landlords and the developers who, have talked about this for years. Talking about the expenses of building, talking about, the expense of just kind of maintenance of some of these, some of the units that they have. The last thing we want to do is see, slumlords, and the last thing we want to do is see, unsafe, decrepit buildings, because you have someone who doesn't care.
Yeah.
And I think we've gotten away from that a lot.
Yeah.
But there's a cost associated to doing so, and we see the cost of materials. And so, I think from their sides, in my conversations with developers and landlords, was the fact that, they said that it should have been increased, over the years. You'd be at 2%, 2%, 2%, whatever.
Yeah.
As opposed to the
1%,
and then hit with a 10%.
Right.
That's a pretty catastrophic number, especially,
especially when if you index it to inflation or something, it would be very different.
Huge.
Yeah. And then there's also the issue of a lot of the people who are kind of the more established landlords, who are kind of more professional and know what they're doing. They tend to sort of stay with that IRAC number, where, say, more inexperienced landlords or people who just don't want to comply, or people that don't know how the rules work around it, maybe aren't as responsible with how they adjust the pricing, and maybe actually in like breaking the rules of how that works. So there's a lot of layers, and I feel like kind of the responsible ones doing it right, getting that 1% increase. Meanwhile, inflation is much more than that. You can imagine how that could get kind of hard to make it work.
And you have to think about landlord. When you said landlords, I mean, you're right. There are landlords that own a lot more than others. There's some that we consider landlords that may, be two teachers who have invested in a property in Charlottetown, for instance, to rent out. They might have bought it, 2-3 years ago when it was at its max in prices, using that as a retirement fund.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now, with the inflation and interest rate and everything else, all of a sudden it becomes problematic.
Yeah.
They're struggling.
Yeah.
And they're trying to make sure that ends meet. And again, I don't think it should be a case of anyone losing money. It's not about gouging people, but when the minute you start losing money, then
it's so tricky.
You know how business is.
There's often these unintended consequences. Like often, like there's like the yin and the yang, where it's like sometimes in an effort to do something good, you create the exact problem you're trying to fix. It's a really weird situation. And I think it takes people who have kind of the ability to have some degree of empathy with all sides, without, the point of them having so much empathy that they're not able to act. But then considering the reality of how do we keep development happening, because if you have a surplus of housing, for example, then the least appealing places have a hard time finding renters.
Correct.
And then if they can't find renters, you know what they have to do? They have to decrease their prices.
Yep.
And so but we're just so far behind that it's just kind of like, okay, well, let's find some other solution to this. And then we're kind of we're sort of clunkily, like in a clunky way, sort of going in and being like, okay, here's what we're doing to everyone. Here's what we're turning on. Here's what we're turning off. Let's hope this works. There's a lot of layers there, a lot of things that you can miss in these big overarching decisions that affect everyone.
But I think that's where we're at. I think unfortunately, and like I said, it sucks. There's no other way of putting it. I mean, it was kind of like I related back to COVID. I mean, it was, how do you react? How do you deal with it? How long is this going to happen? So many question marks. You think about the housing market, vacancy rate, you think about the planning department being short staffed, and you think about the interest, inflation, all these things go in and no one wants to sit idle, but what's the right answer? And what's too much versus not enough? And trying to find that balance, I think, is the tough part. So, do I agree with everything being done? I don't have to agree. I don't know if it's right or wrong.
Right.
I don't think anyone does.
Yeah.
Right. I think people are just trying to react. And I think that's maybe that's the best way to determine, is that I think everyone is so reactionary right now, as opposed to having a plan, because I don't think anybody could plan for this, because it happened so quickly. I mean, we're talking since June.
Since June. Oh, well, definitely.
I'm just talking about the interest rates.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? How do you react to that? Did people see it coming?
No.
Right? So if you didn't, how could you ever plan that this was going to happen?
Yeah. Oh, totally. Oh, there's so much there. Did you ever look into housing co-ops at all? Did you ever have any contact with people developing those at all?
We didn't.
No? Okay.
Yeah. I didn't personally.
Yeah, you didn't personally? Okay, yeah. I went to a meeting recently on them, and it's kind of interesting. Yes. I mean, it's sort of a funny, it's a challenging thing, but I think it's a fun thing to bring into the conversation. The challenge being that since there's no one necessarily who owns it afterwards, so has the sort of financial incentive to like put in the incredible amount of work it takes to build something.
Yep.
There seems to be a void of initiative and leadership there, because there really is opportunity. I remember when I was looking at that CMHC funding for construction and that kind of thing, the subsidies were by far the biggest for nonprofits, co-ops, I think municipalities too, actually, maybe. But co-ops were right in there as at the highest level. But yeah, if you didn't have too much with that, but there's a variety of other benefits I learned about co-ops. I'll just say, just since I'm talking about it, one of which is kind of interesting. You can actually, the members of the co-op can decide who comes in, where typically you're sort of constrained, or it's smart in a way that there's these IRAC restrictions and these housing restrictions as to you can't discriminate, all these different things. You actually, in a co-op, you can decide who your neighbors are and that kind of thing. There's a variety of interesting things. So,
which is crazy that would trump some of the some of the things that the courts kind of handed down, just around discrimination and things of that nature, and the definition of family.
Yeah, it's actually kind of dodgy in a way what could happen with that.
Yeah, I would certainly be suspect, to them being,
yeah, and I don't know how much it actually trumps and how much of that was the presenter's opinion and my impression of the presenter's opinion. I doubt you could discriminate based on, say, race or gender or things like that, or I would assume not.
But our biggest one is definition of family. That's the biggest one right now that I think Supreme Court of Canada toils with, is just the definition of what is family, because, in the fire code and in bylaws, you say that, occupancy of a home can be only done by X amount of family members, whatever. But then what's the definition of family?
Right.
It's very different.
It is, people, and rightfully so.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's that in itself is a big kettle of fish that I don't think that anyone really has delved into. And I know that.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I dealt with it when I was at the planning board, because we have a lot of homes around Prince Edward Island that you see multiple families moving into a single dwelling. Yeah,
and where it's like you got 15 people living in a space designed for 4.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. But then the question then becomes, is when you start to read through some of the bylaws and maybe some of the fire code, then really it says, only 4 different families can occupy the home. But then really, what is the definition of a family?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's,
what it like, and it is someone who
the minute you start trying to define family, then you're teetering on the whole discrimination.
Oh yeah, and you're
Right?
also kind of messing with something that, like, how does anyone have the right to define that for someone else? That's tricky.
Very challenging.
Yeah.
Very challenging. And this is what, governments, municipalities, they deal with on a daily basis.
Right, and there
right?
probably is like some precedence in terms of court cases and things like that.
There's been a
around it,
couple.
but
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we see them in Charlottetown. We see, we see some of these homes that I'll say that people refer to them as boarding homes.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of the same, I'll say, details of a boarding home.
Mm-hmm. Maybe
but they're
individual
not.
locks and doors, like things like that.
Yeah, that's what defines a boarding house, really. But so in some of these homes, they don't have that because, again, it's not. It's more of a family home.
Yeah, totally.
Right? But again, define family.
Yeah, that's tough.
So anyways,
yeah.
it's just, we're getting off topic here a little bit.
This
but
is
it's
really good. Like, I think it's so nice to be able to have these conversations, because I think often in kind of online discourse and stuff, it's kind of like someone says a tweet or a post or a comment, versus taking the time to flesh out these kind of different ideas. But I think we can come back to some of this type of stuff if you want. But I think it would another kind of area that I wouldn't mind talking about, and maybe this is more boring for the audience, I'm not sure, but I know there's a lot of kind of sort of large scale development plans for Charlottetown in terms of the way the different areas of the city are going to be developed and stuff like that. And I know you were right in there looking at that for a while. Like, for example, the big plan for the whole kind of Hillsborough area there, is that still kind of going? Do you know, like, if there's still talk of that new rink? Like, there's a lot of things that I'm not up to speed on that you would be like, just like old hat for you.
Yeah.
And I'd be curious to hear you talk about, some of these different big plans, whether it be kind of what was that called? The Hillsborough Waterfront Development Plan or something like that?
Yeah. The waterfront plan.
The waterfront plan. And then I think it'd be also cool, and you can kind of, pick which of these you'd rather kind of dive into, but where the big areas for increases in housing density are.
Yep, sure. So I'll start with the rink. So I don't think the rink is something that's in, I'll say the near future. It's
okay.
We went down that road, and the costs just started growing when at the time council couldn't make a decision on what direction they wanted to take, and an $85 million project became $130 million project just based on costs. So anyways, we knew we had to replace a aging facility at Simmons, and that's kind of where we focused on for now. What the future councils decide what they want to do and resurrect that plan. That's totally up to them. It'd be expensive. But as for the Eastern Gateway plan, I think is the
Eastern Gateway plan.
Yeah. So that's just a guiding document. I mean, this document, when it was put in place a number of years ago, I believe it was my first year at council that I think we did it.
That sounds about right. Yeah, 2014.
Yep. So it was worked on prior to, but we just kind of never got it off the runway. We came in, we did the Eastern Gateway plan, and we did the East Royalty Master Plan, as well as two big developments. One's a development plan, one's more of a guiding document, if you will, to say, I always say, when you leave the port of Charlottetown as a visitor, you come out, you're heading down to Water Street, you take a left, and you're welcomed into Charlottetown. Here's historic Charlottetown, restaurants, vibrant life, all the things. Take a right.
You got the waste disposal plant. You got the big oil tanks.
There's just nothing.
You got the smokestacks,
Maritime Electric, and on and on. Because you get into really kind of an industrial part of the city. So
right on the waterfront. Right on the what could be beautiful waterfront.
So we looked at the land. That is currently the concert grounds, we call them, which we only held one concert, I believe. I think it was Shania Twain.
They get the seafood, the shellfish festival there.
But you can't build there.
In terms of the big. Yeah, because is it on Phil?
Correct. Yeah. So what do you do with that? What do you do with all that park space? So if the Eastern Gateway plan, it talked about potential another anchor park to that of Victoria Park. So when people go, and then there was a plan, to put a beach in there. And I know people couldn't see it, but the quality of the water is actually pretty good. And it was similar to that of San Francisco. I was there for meetings one time, and they have a beach right in the city.
Oh, nice.
And it was used a lot.
Oh, that would be pretty nice.
Right? Yeah. So all of a sudden, if you make that area a bit of a destination, when Maritime Electric, if they ever did leave, that there's a future plan in place to say that you can't put another Maritime Electric there.
Yeah.
If Island Fertilizers were to sell and discontinue their building on Riverside Drive, basically saying that you can't put another Island Fertilizer there, fertilizer plant, that was going to be turned into something different, something more appealing, and try to eliminate some of that industrial stuff, along that side, making it kind of a destination. When there was talks about the rink, that's the thing, right? They were talking about building it as a destination. They were talking about putting a hotel, restaurants, creating a kind of a different hub, if you will, down that area.
I feel like that area is actually almost going the opposite direction in a way, but
it is. But
like when you think, like, for example, I mean, not just there's currently kind of a tent village right on the in the intro to town, but also some of that infrastructure positioning is almost strengthened with, say, the Stratford now also utilizing our waste management,
and that's not going to change. That'll be there.
In for decades to come at least.
It was more about creating something, just a hub within the city.
Which also, I will say, I'm really glad that happened.
Yes,
because it's really nice that there's not those open ponds right on the right in Stratford there, right next to the gas station that we're all used to smelling. When we were on that side of the...
Increase the property value in Stratford.
I'm sure that whole area around there. And now, they're actually... I think the potential for that area right there. And then there's also... Stratford, there's just so many cool things happening in Stratford. And I think what's going to happen in... The Duck Landing, is that what it's called? That the Gray Group is working on there? That's like... That sounds like there's some major stuff happening there.
So much development that's happening. Not only is, like, in Stratford is great. I mean, you saw as soon as the ponds were removed... you saw an apartment building, nice complex go up there right over top of the water.
Right, yeah.
As opposed to a smelly pond.
Yeah.
So, win-win
totally.
On that. But yeah, the Gray Group is doing amazing things in Stratford as well. It's being developed at a rapid pace. Going back to Charlottetown, you talked about, what other plans are happening. The East Royalty Master Plan, I mean, if you look where the land is, it's between, I'll say, just short of Winslow.
Okay.
So between the Sherwood Road and leading into Winslow, which you see some development happening now through that hidden valley. That's an empty parcel of land that, absolutely needs to be developed, which is.
It is, yeah.
Then you head over to East Royalty and you start looking at some of the land over there. So Montgomery Heights, you look off McCrae Drive, those are your biggest parcels of land that is being developed.
And with the plan that is kind of continuing, some of it is like there's a variety of housing densities sort of proposed for those areas, right?
Right. So that's good planning principles, right? That's, you want to have a variety of housing types. And it was funny, we used the excuse, I'll say residents used to be very critical of some of council's decisions, rightfully so, where we would stick, an apartment as an infill project into a predominantly R1 neighborhood. But the argument that was used by many of the residents that showed up in support, they used to say, well, when I'm done here at this house, where do I go? I don't, I love the neighborhood. I've been here for 35 years. I love the people in the neighborhood. This is where my friends are. But because I can't live in my house anymore, I have no other options but to move downtown Charlottetown. Or somewhere where they don't want to be.
Right. Yeah. When they're looking for something a little more quieter or to match their kind of quieter neighborhood.
No different from the end of Palmer's Road here. Same idea. You live in a street where I think the Bevan brothers came with a proposal for just a different type of housing. So these type of projects are good. So in East Royalty, the same thing applies. So it's a mix of single detached duplexes. You have a sprinkle of apartments in the plan, row housing, things of that nature. So it just gives everyone a variety, one-stop shopping in that area.
Yeah.
Because again, last thing we want to see is I'll say May Point Apartments where you solely put everything in one area. So you have, 21 apartment units in one area, but then you go over to a neighborhood that has nothing but R1 development.
Right. Yeah.
Right. It's not good planning practice.
And I think as that goes, further out into the distance, then that's where you can kind of get these urban sprawl type situations.
Exactly.
And where you have these, incredible differences in terms of quality of life between different areas. And
bingo. Urban sprawl is the term that we use a lot back in planning. I mean, the way Charlottetown was built, it bled of urban sprawl.
Is there a reason why, buildings can only be so tall in Charlottetown? Is that in downtown, for example? Is that mainly to sort of maintain the character of the community?
Yeah, it was to maintain the heritage feel.
Okay, yeah.
That way we're not, you look at a place like Halifax, for instance.
Yeah, that's changed dramatically.
And it took away a lot from their heritage. You know, now, and Charlottetown,
it's like one side of Argyle Street to the other. It's like they've got the old restaurants and stuff on the other side, and then these towering buildings right beside it. You just imagine like, how long are those little buildings going to last too? But yeah,
it's taken away from Halifax's character. I mean, I like Halifax. It's a vibrant city. I enjoy it.
I enjoy that downtown feeling for me.
I do too.
I think part of it too is that not being from Halifax, I wasn't necessarily as invested in some of those things. But I know there's a lot of, I hear kind of mixed opinions from local residents of Halifax, but I like that there's kind of a bigger city. For me, as someone who lives in Charlottetown, I like that there's kind of a bigger city feel, only a 3.5 hour drive away. So if I want to go and just leave the really tight-knit community of Charlottetown for a little bit, but not have to fly somewhere and just have a little road trip, Halifax is great for me. But so for me, I also enjoy that, but yeah, it could change a character dramatically of Charlottetown.
It can, but at the same time, I think we need to kind of be a little less protective right now. I don't think raising the building heights, even to 7 stories from the 5 that we currently have right now is going to drastically change the
character.
Right. The aesthetics of downtown Charlottetown and what makes Charlottetown so unique. You just got to make sure that you preserve certain areas and preserve certain buildings. Unlike Halifax, where they just kind of buried their heritage, unfortunately, and you have to go looking for it.
Right.
I still think there's a happy medium there. I think there's a solution, and I don't think that we have to be quite as strict. Yeah. And we did raise it up 1 level in my term.
Oh, yeah, that's congratulations.
And that was a battle. But that was good. Do I think it should be 10-story buildings everywhere? Probably not, because it does take away from the character. You look at old Quebec. Right. They maintain their heritage. It's very important to them. And I mean, my partner, she used to work at the Port of Charlottetown.
Right. Yes.
And we used to get the numbers from her to say, Quebec, old Quebec was the number 1 port.
Right.
Port of call because of this.
Right.
We were number 2.
We were number 2.
We were number 2. Wow. So what's that say?
Wow. Yeah. People want to come here. They want to experience it. And then we who live here get to enjoy that.
Bingo.
Yeah. Yeah. So then how are outside of that downtown area, what are the height restrictions? Do you know that would be?
Yeah, you can go up a bit higher, not much. There's still restrictions in place. I think
is that mainly to make it so, like, say the view coming in from the distance is different, or is it because of the nature of our land, or do you know why that is?
I really don't. I think we should be going higher. And I think UPEI was the project that I was looking at the most to say, this makes a ton of sense. It looks good, but maybe it's a way of establishing, to the public as well to say, not so bad. Yeah. Right. It doesn't take away from anything.
Not where it's located there.
Right. And again,
it's kind of on the top of a hill too. So like when you're on the other side of UPEI, it's not like you have much of a view of downtown anyway. Yep. So we
should be going higher as we move out of town.
Yeah.
And even if you want to take a layered approach.
Yeah.
And build the city higher. That way, in East Royalty, if you put an 8-story up in East Royalty, you got beautiful water views.
Right. Yeah.
You got beautiful water views from anywhere in Charlottetown from 8 stories.
That's true.
No matter where you're from.
Oh, wow. So that increases the value for people. So yeah, if you could, and I mean, it's always this dance, right? You're trying to find kind of how you make it so that you have the kind of like the least like sort of drawbacks and the most benefit, right? So it's like it's never gonna be perfect,
Yep.
But that's kind of neat, that idea of that kind of layered approach, getting it higher up, because there's certain places where it would hardly block anything at all. You could have it just as high as you wanted, and the main downside I can think of is it would be the visual focal point, could become the visual focal point. So you'd want it to be, at least the first one, to be kind of cool looking, I feel.
But that's where I think that you have to make sure that when you have blank canvases of land that don't impede people's way of life or their views or whatever it may be. I know no one owns a view, but if you invest in a home and all of a sudden you have a 9-story apartment be built in behind you, that does suck.
Does suck, yeah.
But if you do have a blank canvas,
Yeah,
and you have
exactly.
nothing in the
You
area.
got some farmland with nothing around it.
Why not?
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Why not? So, that's where I think that the city, I think, we need to do better.
It's like a little nimbleness required for that. That's just a matter it's like having these general rules, but then it's like, okay, let's look at this individual situation or let's expand the rules to allow for when we're in a situation where there is undeveloped land that's big enough. Like, yeah.
Yeah. And that's the hard part. I mean, I sat on council for 8 years. You get the residents of the area that come and they're concerned. They don't like it.
Traffic.
It's ruined their way of life.
They used to play in that forest area over there.
Crowded schools.
Right?
I mean, you put an 8-story apartment building.
To build a new school.
Unintended consequences is the term you used earlier, and it's a term that we use a lot.
Yeah. Right. There's always a stance, isn't there?
So there has to be a long-term plan put in place for everything.
Yeah.
And if not, then again, we're seeing it. We're seeing the results of no planning on, healthcare, on schools and things like that. Now we're in a situation where the population growth through the roof. We have all these issues with low vacancy. Housing's an issue. And then you have, mobile units set up at schools.
Right.
Who would have thought that 5 years ago?
5 years ago, yeah.
Not me.
No. And because it wasn't that long ago that their people were very concerned about the aging population on PEI, and very concerned of us maintaining a workforce, very concerned about our ability to tend for the elderly and us not have the workforce to be able to support that. And so that is, that still may be the case. I'm not sure in terms of those concerns, there being some of them, but my impression is, if we're building new schools, well, that is a sign to me, or that we're having to do these additions. That's a sign to me that there's people at the age where they would have young kids coming in and growing our population. So that is immediate indication.
The demographics of Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island, would change dramatically over the years. And we are attracting the younger people here, which I think is fantastic. I mean, Charlottetown is vibrant.
Yeah, totally.
Is it Halifax? No. But I don't know if you asked all the residents in Charlottetown, do you want Halifax?
No,
I'm guessing the answer is probably going to be no. But going back to land available to the city to develop, we're running out.
Right.
Let's be honest. I mean, you're running the city. You can't make land.
No.
So they're going to have to start looking at going higher.
Right.
In order to meet the housing demands and the needs of people moving here.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so I feel like there's so many different topics here. I want to be sort of conscious of time here too, but this is great stuff. But I think it'd be interesting to think, just like you now working as a realtor, in your day-to-day life. So, are you doing realty full time now or once you're finished as counselor?
I am. Yep.
Yeah, which is coming right up. In fact, you'll probably no longer be counselor by the time this episode is released.
I think 2 weeks.
Okay, yeah. We've got a backlog of episodes already recorded to go out. So
then probably not.
Yeah. well, I guess given when this will be released, congratulations on your retirement from that. So now full time in real estate. What do you picture your, just out of curiosity, what you picture your day-to-day life being like, and that and or with Sherwood Crossing, for example, in this time, like, are you seeing interest in the properties? Are you seeing, and what kind of people are like who's buying right now? And anywhere in there that you want to go, anything that caught your attention?
Sherwood Crossing is a beautiful project. I mean, it's been delayed for a number of months, and it's unfortunate. Now that it's done, I mean, it's outstanding. The amount of room in these townhomes are, second to none. It's 2,350 square feet.
Yeah.
You have a finished basement.
Yeah.
High end finishes. You have custom done shaker style cabinetry. It's just they're really high end.
And then this, like, you can just hop right over to the grocery store, right over to the mall, or quick run down Mount Edward Road to downtown.
So the best feedback I got was from 2 weeks ago. We had the big open house, where we had live radio for 2 days. Saturday I was there for 6 hours. Sunday I was there for 4. So we had live radio. We had 280 people roughly come through in the 2 days, and
so captured some interest for sure.
100%. Yeah. It absolutely told me who the buyers are going to be and who they weren't. You know, the feedback for seniors was not favorable because of the stairs.
The stairs,
of
I
course.
noticed that. There with it being kind of the 2 above grade stories plus the finished basement, and then there's a stairs to get in, and then there's a back deck area, right?
Yeah, with stairs down. Just because of the slope of the land.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So not real senior friendly when it comes to that. You know, we looked at some of the younger people, of course, then it's the expense of the townhouse itself.
Yeah.
I mean, they're pricey.
Yeah.
But they're nice, and the cost per square foot is low compared to some of the other bills.
That's right. Yeah, because it's so large square foot. That's I mean, it's not that much over $200 a square foot.
It's like $262 per square foot.
Okay, yeah.
Which, in comparison to other townhouses and duplexes on the market today that are brand new, it's quite
affordable,
inexpensive.
Yeah, relative to those. Yeah.
Again, it's just big.
It's big, so you have to be able to afford that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just a unique townhome that's not available really, you know, in Charlottetown.
Right.
Or really PEI for that matter. That much
really
room.
Feels like it could be something for kind of a, you know, say a couple who are professionals who are kind of established in their career and want a good place to live.
Active living. I mean, you're, like you said, you're right next to the trails.
Oh, right next to the trail too. That's right. Like, yeah,
right there.
Right,
you know,
there,
you have all amenities near. You have schools. You have church. You have, you know, I think
what's the school district for that? Where they go? Sherwood.
I believe it's Sherwood.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Sherwood so it's right there. It's only.
Yeah, that's a good little school too. I like that. Yeah.
You know, the mall continues to grow. You know, the developer Tim Banks has spent a lot of time and energy in kind of revitalizing that mall, and he continues to do so. So
and then there's the superstore, and then there's all this stuff right next to that. There's like the, you know, that block that has like, there's the big Canadian Tire, and then there's the, like, you know, the Price Mart, the pet store, the big, there's a big restaurant there. What a great spot for density though.
Because you think is, you know, is that area a desirable location for, you know, R1 housing, you know, backing onto Canadian Tire, backing onto, probably not.
Yeah.
What an opportunity to put in density.
Vibrant community area.
Right?
Yeah.
People that maybe don't need the vehicles, you know, your walking distance of everything, you know, that's what it's built around, is an active lifestyle.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
and
you could be someone, who wants to use the trail, cycling. Someone who likes to run. Yeah. Oh, that's kind of interesting. So finding that market for it, or like, has that been coming? Have some of the units been selling?
Yeah, we've had a couple sold.
Oh, yeah, cool.
It's just tricky. It's the time of year where
and interest rates.
Well, the interest rates are number one. Number two, again, is time of year.
Yeah,
it's
we're coming into the to the winter.
People are taking the time off from looking. Mm-hmm. They're getting ready for Christmas. They're getting ready to host families. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of people don't want to have to move and do those type of things during the next.
How many units are currently there?
There's 18.
18, yeah.
18.
But there's all that land off behind it. That's going to be.
Yeah. So there's 4 different developers that own 4 different big pockets of land that lead up to the end, you know, to the highway, to the bypass.
Okay. Yeah. Well, there is that, you know, across the way, there is that apartment building there, which is quite lovely.
Yep.
I noticed they've got like the Christmas decor in there and stuff now. Okay, yeah.
I think you'll see a lot of density in there over the years, and I think that's kind of one of the big projects of Charlottetown. But there was City of Charlottetown just did the traffic review in that area, just to be able to kind of establish, you know, what we need to be able to do to take away some of the pressure. You know, if this many units go, you know, in the rest of the land, you know, we're talking a lot of units. I mean, I'm talking, I guess, like 12 to 1,400 doors. Going
over to say the other side of the of Royalty Crossing, where it's right, you know, you're right on University Avenue going out onto Highway 2 there. I mean, that seems like it can funnel quite a bit of traffic, and then onto Capitol Drive over there. But on this side probably is where it's like, you know, Mount Edward Road will start getting a little maybe busier than is.
Well, Towers Road already that we, you know, it's already tough.
It is.
You know, you try to exit out of there. You can be there for 5 minutes trying to exit onto Mount Edward Road. It just backs up right down to the mall.
Yeah.
Because that's your only throughway. Unless you go to, you know, it's either Belvedere, Towers, or the bypass.
Right. Yeah.
So it's a matter of you know, having some vision and, you know, trying to connect the road network there to make sure traffic flows smoothly and ease up, you know, some of the pressure on some of the residents that kind of want to invest there and stay there, it's a deterrent if you can't get to your driveway.
Okay, wild card. This is, okay, we're going to leap 10, 20 years in the future here just for fun. Do you ever look into the Boring Company at all? What they do?
Who?
The Boring Company?
No.
They're kind of working on, because they're working on tunnel systems.
Okay.
And so they're dramatically reducing the cost of tunneling. One of the cool things about tunneling, you can go deep down underground and you can have layers upon layers upon layers. But it's cost preventative.
Yep.
So they're working on bringing down the cost of tunneling dramatically. So then you could have these sort of subterranean pathways that you could have basically unlimited amount of pathways underground. Now it only works with electric cars, but I think that's where the world is going. And so then you could have these points where they come up. Anyway, it's a little far off into the future in that, they do have it in Las Vegas now. If you're down in Las Vegas, check out the Boring Loop there.
I will.
And that is expanding in Las Vegas and is going kind of between convention centers now.
Yep.
So and currently you're kind of a passenger and they have drivers.
Yeah.
And they're working on a new one in Florida as well. But that's just kind of getting started. And so, but they see this as potentially something that could kind of go, like you could eventually, because it'll be, you don't have to do any expropriation.
Yeah.
It doesn't disturb anything above it. So you, like, in terms of like, the impediments to it, you don't have to acquire land. You just need, it can go so deep that you could go like 1,000 highways deep or something.
I was going to say
like
the question then becomes is how deep can you go?
How deep can you go
on
right?
the island? Because again, we are an island, so at some point you have to be striking water.
Well,
the water table has to be.
But you can go well below that.
Okay.
You could go under the.
Interesting.
You could go over to Nova Scotia if you wanted.
Like a Montreal tunnel.
Yeah, exactly. You could do that, and it'll be anyway. This is a bit farther off, but
I
check
love
it out. Look up the Boring
good.
Company. It's pretty interesting. It's one of Elon Musk's sort of side hustles.
Yeah. Well, we got to start being creative, right? We got to start thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
And figuring out some of these things because, as the population continues to grow, as we started the whole conversation on.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're going to have to start figuring out innovative ways to be able to still have farmland on PEI and have housing because I don't think the population growth is going away. I think PEI is a destination that people desire.
What do you, for someone who sort of is considering buying or selling right now, and with, a lot of people have a lot of nervousness about that. Like you said, volumes of sales are going down. Like, how are you talking with clients about that? Whether it be maybe from the buyer's perspective for a minute, how are you having these conversations, or maybe it's around the RE/MAX office these conversations are happening? What are people saying?
It's difficult. So here's the situation that I find the most is that you have I'll say sellers who are looking at what was sold in the last year in their neighborhood. So of course, when you go talk to them about listing their house, we're talking today. A lot of them are still talking
6 months ago.
So right away,
that's hard. That's a tough pill to swallow.
It is, because then you have an inflated price that did work, but
then
late to the dance, right?
It's just
then you have buyers who know, they're watching, they're seeing that the prices are coming down. We're having record amount of price adjustments to the bills or to some of these listings. They're watching quite closely because they're saying, okay, well, we know the interest rate's going down. We know the inflation's there. We know all that stuff. So we're gonna come in much lower. So that's where the divide is. So
that's tricky.
Yeah, it is very tricky, and the number could be quite large. I mean, you could be in a total difference of 20%.
Yeah.
And when you're talking 20% of $500,000,
that's a big chunk.
That's a substantial amount to try to close that gap.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And especially for something I feel like new construction wouldn't have a lot of price elasticity because there's, costs of building it, obviously. Yep. And now for people, one of the thoughts that I had, and I just kind of like bouncing these ideas around. One of the thoughts I had was because say if you're selling your place, yep. and say if you're someone who's had it for a long time and you have a whole bunch of equity in it, yep. but you're just disappointed by the price that you're going to get out of it, which, I mean, that's a unique thing because some people don't have equity once you reduce that price and still might have to move. Like there'd be some real tough pills to swallow there. But for the people who have, say, had their house for a long time, still have a lot of equity in it, but just disappointed with the price they're going to get, that cash that you're getting out of it is actually quite valuable on the marketplace right now too. So if you look at what's happening in the stock market, where thanks to interest rates, the equity prices have dramatically fallen. So if you want to put that to work in the market, and if you have the time, because whenever equity prices come down like that, you don't know how low they're going to go. So you might put that all in and it might go down more. You know, there might be a recession, might go down more. But relative to what it was 6 months ago, it's actually the proportion of the, say, companies you would be buying with that cash is dramatically more. So you can get a lot more of the inherent business than you could before. So that cash is actually worth a lot more. So say if you do have to take that tough pill of being like, I'm not getting what I want for my house, you can then redeploy that capital potentially on an acquisition where you're also getting a better deal on that price.
Yeah.
Or you might be able to put that money to work. If you wanted it super safe, you actually can get higher price on government bonds than you have been able to in the last 10 years or more than that. Since I don't know how long actually. I actually don't know how long, but a while.
You don't know,
but or if you wanted to invest in equities that have dramatically fallen, you're getting that for less as well. So I think that's something for people to be aware of too. If they can get cash out of their offer, that cash is also maybe more powerful than it was 6 months ago.
Yeah, but we got to keep in mind too for sellers, when they're taking a little bit less now than they would have last year. I mean, real estate's all about a game of timing, clearly. Same as stocks. I mean, you go back 4 years ago and you could buy a bungalow again for $170,000.
Yeah,
no one would have anticipated that your bungalow was worth $350,000 overnight.
Yeah, and now you're getting 300 even or something, and you feel sad about it, but
it's
if
still
you go
crazy.
Back a few years, and it's like
you have 130,000.
It's a little sad that you didn't happen to get it right at the very top, but it's also like being real. It's like you're still doing really well, provided you bought it before
right.
the very top of the market. And the good thing about it, if you bought it at the very top of the market, is you probably paid a lower interest rate, right. So your payments are actually probably effectively lower, which means your kind of cost of living is lower. You're still paying down equity. At that point, in my opinion, it feels like it's a waiting game.
It is. Yeah. And then again, like I said, I hope you have this discussion with your future hosts or your future guests when it comes to the recession, and what the outcomes of a recession, could look like, because that has, profound impact on buyers and sellers. And the question is, what's it look like? Yeah. Right. I mean,
do you have any gut feelings about this? Do you think it's going to happen?
Well,
in a serious way?
It's certainly trending that way from what I'm reading.
Yeah.
And if that happens, I mean, absolutely, you'll see the interest rate probably go down. The banks will knock the mortgage rate down.
Yeah.
But, the outcome of the recession could be, people losing jobs, small businesses really hurting. And all of a sudden then you have people that either need to sell that are going to sell out of desperation and lose money, or you're going to have, on the other side, you're going to have buyers who can't afford to buy because their employment has changed dramatically. So, the recession, who knows what's going to happen? I mean, it's easy to say that the interest rates are going to go down and, we're going to have the same thing happen where, home value is going to go up. But we don't know. But we don't know. We don't know what's going to look like. How long is it going to last?
Yeah.
So, those are real discussions that, that have to take place. And again, we're in kind of uncharted waters right now. And
actually, I wonder, did I have this here? I actually read a really awesome Jim Rohn, or listened to in the audiobook, a really awesome Jim Rohn quote this morning, which is something along the lines of the success that you get from your professional and financial life, with something like this, isn't in some kind of number on paper. But it's in the character that you develop.
Yeah.
And so you imagine all the tests that people might have to face over this next little while. And if you look at it like a life adventure, like you're the Hobbit and
great movie.
and Gandalf has just come into your life and says, we're going on an adventure.
Yeah.
And you say, okay, well, you know what? This does sound like an adventure. And so ultimately you have to decide. You have to decide where you're going to live, how you're going to pay for it. Do you want to rent it? Do you want to own it? What do you want to move? And then if it happens, look at you're You're still there. And if something doesn't go the way you want, and maybe the equity prices go down and interest rates go down,
Yeah.
you paid at the top with the highest interest rate and whatever. Look at you still standing there doing your thing. And I think that ultimately, with a lot of the kind of fear that can be felt around it, if you do look at it as an adventure and you just try to do your best, you can get through some pretty challenging situations.
I think human nature is to persevere. I think for the most part,
Yeah.
I think people get handed some bad cards, and listen, a ton of empathy and for those people, and those are the people you want to help out. But for the most part, I think we try as a human race to overcome.
Yeah.
And like you said, go on these adventures.
Yeah.
And we're all still here.
We're all still here.
We've all been dealt
And
bad
you know what?
cards.
And then when something like, say, health, or the loss of someone you love, and when these things happen, it really does put a lot of that other stuff in perspective. So I feel like kind of having these conversations with people, with buyers or sellers who are trying to navigate these rapid changing times.
Yep.
And change, it isn't just the actual number, it's the change. It's the change in expectation that that requires adapting. But that is also the adventure. Yeah.
And that makes our job as realtors even that much more important. Because again, we know, and even though it's uncharted water, we read, we study, we talk to other agents, we try to learn. As a home buyer or a seller, they don't take the time that we would.
Well, and often it's not their profession. So it's,
correct.
Yeah.
So it's up to us to guide them the best we can, and be genuine, and be honest, and be forthcoming. That's key in today's real estate.
Yeah.
If it's all about making the dollar, then chances are you're probably going to fall flat in your face.
Right.
In this industry, right? You got to make it about them.
Yeah.
And the dollars are a result of being good at what you do. But yeah.
But it's not about you. It's about them with their
it's about them
home,
that you have to make it
buying
about
or
them.
selling decisions.
Have to make it about them.
Yeah, of course.
Because it's for some people it's the biggest purchase of their lives.
Yeah.
For others, it's you're trying to maximize their equity in the house, or they can do take their next steps.
Yeah.
In what they want to do. So that's on you.
Yeah.
A lot of times, right? The market will dictate what they end up getting, but it's up to you as a realtor to make sure you give the best advice.
So if somebody wants to talk to you, what is the best way of getting a hold of you? They're thinking of buying or selling, or they want to take a look at the Sherwood Crossing.
Yeah, just give me a call at my cell 902-388-7031, or just send me an email at greg@gregrivard.com.
Great. Is there any last message you want to talk about before we wrap up the conversation, or anything that that you wanna bring up?
I think this was a great conversation. I think this was awesome. It was nice to be able to kind of delve into my past experience as a counsel and just talk about stuff that's related to the city and mix it in with some real estate. So I certainly appreciate the opportunity. I think it was great.
Awesome. Well, such a pleasure, Greg.
Thank you so much.
Okay, great. Thank you for listening to Chattel Fixtures PEI Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, David Cyrus MacDonald. If you want to reach out to me for any reason, please visit chattelfixtures.com to find my contact information, show notes, etc. We're currently looking for diverse and interesting guests. If you would like to have a conversation with me, or if there is anyone you would like to hear me speak with, or have an idea for the show, let me know. Get in touch through the website or tweet at me at Chattel Fixtures. We're currently seeking out relevant sponsors with solid reputations, serving customers, particularly in some way related to the PEI real estate market. If that sounds like you, get in touch with me if you want to support great, positive conversations about real estate happening right here in PEI. Visit chattelfixtures.com to learn more. Be sure to subscribe to Chattel Fixtures PEI Real Estate Podcast, and see you in the next episode.